Maybe as a nice guy, maybe you've heard this one. You get to know a woman, she starts opening up to you. She really kind of, opens and lets down. And then she says something to you like, "You're the only person I can trust." Run, run away. She's got big trust issues. And there's probably a reason she picked you because she's got trust issues. And remember, we all have our own way of being untrustworthy. We'll probably live up to her expectations. We'll soon be on her list of people who she no longer trusts either because nobody is trustworthy. Guys, this is going to be a fun, crazy. I don't know what this lesson is going to turn out like. But the theme is trust. So I am trusting that this is going to be a powerful call and a powerful lesson. And kind of like the last few lessons I've taught, um, been very personal. And so therefore, maybe especially challenging to pull together and teach because they are personal. And this isn't a topic I can think of that I've like taught a lot on. So this is fresh for me as well. The aspiration, I'm calling this aspiration 17, and it says, I aspire to trust intuitively, knowing that this is the only way to rise above the imperfection of myself and others and find what is inherently true and trustworthy. And I even worked on that aspiration for several days, wording it, rewording it, rewording it. And I'll just say up front, this lesson is an act in trust, right? And most of the time when I am writing and creating lessons, it is an act of trust. I really trust, for lack of a better term, I call it the muse, that the muse will guide me to write, to say, to present what's most needed. I went to bed last night having worked on this lesson for most of the day yesterday and for on and off for a few days before. And I went to bed last night without it being in a final form and knowing I only had a few hours in the morning to work on it before this call. And I even went to bed trusting that it would come together just as it needs to come together, um, because it will. And so I went to bed, slept well, knowing that the lesson wasn't complete, wasn't in a, a perfect order with subtext, with keynote. I just knew it would come together, and I'm trusting that it will. And I have spent a few more hours kind of putting some order to it this morning. But the reason I wanted to talk about trust, um, a conversation came up on the integration nation timeline. This is maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and somebody posted about an ex-partner, basically betraying their trust in a few different ways. She'd left them, I think maybe taken advantage of them financially, had not kept some promises, and a really robust discussion got going about trust. And I kind of interjected a time or two, a few thoughts about trust, but mainly I just observed the conversation because several people got involved. Several people were sharing and revealing their own issues, dynamics around trust. Questions came up like, can you trust someone 100%, especially a partner? How do you know that you trust somebody? Uh, Somebody talked about their fear of being betrayed by a woman, which that's a pretty common fear among most men that I work with. Somebody asked, how do we start trusting? Isn't trust something that people earn? Um, Somebody else asked, is trust a leap of faith? And somebody else said, you're the only person you can 100% trust. And I was, I was watching this and I thought, man, this will make a good subject for a call. And so I actually copied and pasted all out the discussion so I could come back to it later and have reviewed that discussion again in creating this lesson. What is trust? Who and what can be trusted? Is anyone or anything 100% trustworthy? I put a poll on the timeline this week and I said, pick one of the four trust issues. Are you most unlikely to trust yourself? Are you most unlikely to be trustworthy? Are you most likely to trust people too much? Or are you most likely to not trust people enough? And it was curious, and somebody commented on this. Not one person picked, I tend not to be trustworthy. Not one person. And somebody commented, that's interesting. Nobody picked that one. And again, it was multiple choice. You can only pick one of the four. But that was curious to me is that we're all fundamentally untrustworthy for many reasons. But one is we're nice guys, which means all of our life we've been trying to become what we think other people want us to be, to get our to be liked and loved and to get our needs met, and hiding anything about people that we think might lead to negative consequences. I begin No More Mr. Nice Guy with talking about how untrustworthy nice guys are, but not one nice guy in the poll said, I'm not trustworthy. Again, it's one of four choices, and you can only pick one. But in some ways, I think tr trusting ourselves and being trustworthy ourselves are probably fundamental keys in knowing how to trust other people. And we'll talk more about that, how most of our trust issues are projections and most of them are unconscious. So here's three things I've observed about people and trust. Number one, how we trust is a projection of our childhood wounds. We're going to come back and talk about each of these. Two, how we trust is almost completely out of conscious awareness. That may surprise most of us because I kind of have a feeling most of us we're pretty sure we know how we trust, but I'm going to propose we don't. We have no fucking clue what our trust issues are or how we trust in general. And three, how we trust is fundamentally dysfunctional. How most of us trust is fundamentally dysfunctional and typically invites the very things that we fear. First one, how we trust is a projection of our childhood wounds. All right, we've all been wounded. We've all been abandoned. We've all been betrayed. We've all been lied to. We've all been neglected. And as children, we were dependent, completely, wholly dependent. Our survival depended on us being able to trust our caregivers. And our caregivers were completely undependable. Now, that doesn't mean that they were malicious or bad or hurtful people. It means they were human and they had a lot of things going on in their life. And maybe they didn't know how to parent. And maybe they'd not been parented very well. So our earliest life experience, like most things in life, go a long way to strongly influence how we see ourselves, how we see people, how we see the world as adults. And again, the things that we experienced as children, all the way from just the betrayals and the abandonments, even being lied to. Have you ever thought about this? Culture encourages parents to lie to their children. And parents justify lying to their kids all the time. How many of you as a kid got punished for lying to your parents? And the reality is your parents role modeled lying. I mean, parents do that all the time. Mommy and daddy are fighting. No, everything's okay. We're fine. Nothing's wrong. Well, the kid knows something's wrong and they're being lied to. It causes the child to question their intuitive sense of what is and what isn't. And there's no other way of putting it. That fucks with the kid's head. They sense something, they know something, they feel something, and yet the big people in the room tell them, no, that's not accurate. That's not what's happening. That's not what's true. And then we might wonder why we struggle with trust issues, why we struggle with trusting people or trusting situations when we grow older, just because of these messages. And then there's the double standards. And you guys have double standards as a kid. Your parents could do one thing, they could get away with one thing, but if you got away with it, you got in trouble for it. That was my house. Dad can do whatever. Any of us do the same thing? No. So, we get this stuff modeled for us. So what happens is I think we lose touch with reality. And as I said, I think as children, we are born knowing intuitively what to trust. And that is our senses. Our senses tell us what to trust. We don't go around asking, is this person trustworthy? It's what they're telling me the truth. We're born sensing what is true and what isn't. But our intuition and the sensing of the world in so many ways takes a beating when we're a child. And so we just quit listening to it. If we listen to it at all, we don't trust it. Okay. Second second observation about trust, at least the way as I observe it in most of us. How we trust is almost completely out of conscious awareness. So I was kind of in a way, kind of a trick, not really, not a mean trick, but doing a poll asking people about where their trust issues are. And it is mainly just kind of testing my observation. And I think the truth is, even if we think we know what our trust issues are, oh, maybe I trust too much. I trust untrustworthy people. I don't say no. I don't walk away. I get taken advantage of. Or, I start out, they got to earn my trust. Or I trust and then verify. Several people put, here's my trust model. And I'm going to venture a guess, most of us have no fucking clue what our trust model is. Because what I think happens is this gets formed at such an early age, it it actually becomes a part of our personality, a survival mechanism, how we interact with people in general, the body language we send off, the walls we put up, the trying too hard to get approval and validation, our attachments to outcome. There's so many pieces that play into our trust issues that I don't think for most of us are, even if we say, well, I'm this way, I'm going to venture a guess, we're probably wrong. We're probably wrong about whatever we believe about ourselves without trust. For most of us, I think trust is a shadow area, operates in unconscious ways. And again, it's a survival mechanism built on the abandonments, the betrayals, the mixed messages of childhood. And even when we think we're making conscious decisions about trust, trusting the people, trusting the situation, we probably aren't. There's probably so many unconscious factors based on all of our wounds and abandonments and painful events and distortions from childhood. We don't even know how they're operating. So even if we think we're clear in our way of trusting, we're probably fooling ourselves, which makes it difficult then to trust ourselves and trust others. If all of this is swimming around under our unconscious, and like Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our life and we'll call it fate. Okay. So most of us have a default blanket ways of trusting, regardless of the situations or the signals that we're receiving. And as I've said, is a projection of our past. It's often very black and white and very like no shades of gray, no nuance. We tend to apply our one system of trusting, whatever that unconscious system is, to all people in all situations, regardless of what's actually happening or what the information or signals are. And therefore, it's often not even closely related to the context of the situation. And again, this usually leads to us ignoring any intuition that we have. So most of us, believe it or not, because this even though there's a lot going on down in the unconscious, how our trust issues manifest are usually pretty simple. We trust everyone and everything when we shouldn't, right? Or we don't trust anyone or anything when we should. What is one way that you are untrustworthy? One way that pretty typically you are untrustworthy. Do you make promises you don't keep? Do you like distract people from things you don't want them to see that you've done? Do you repress your feelings, your thoughts, your wants? What is one way, a typical way that you look at yourself that you're untrustworthy? Going to put on some reading glasses here so I can see the forum. I'm often late. Yeah, that's the way of being untrustworthy. That's good. I'm another person. I'm usually 5 minutes late to an appointment. Okay, they're streaming in now. I don't tell others what I really feel about them. I'm often not honest in social situations. I promise too many times, I'm going to call you soon. I never do that. I won't be clear and direct. I tend not to express my feelings. I'm fooling myself. I hold back some of my emotions, thoughts, and feelings. I minimized supposed negative stuff. Um, I'm not as confident as I seem. I don't always keep my micro promises. You guys could all see who posted that. What the hell is the difference between a micro promise and a macro promise? Yeah, okay. He doesn't keep his promises. He's even breaking down his untrustworthy in the micro doses. He hides his sexual, somebody else hides their sexual agenda from women, inviting them to social events when that's not his real agenda. He wants to fuck them. I'm adding that part. Omit things. I don't express boundaries until too late. Um, Micro cheating. We're just going to start adding a micro sum to everything. It's not, hey, it's a micro lie. It's a micro cheat. It's a micro infidelity. It's a micro fuck up. Um, not keeping their word. Okay, cool. Okay. I love your honesty, guys. I love your sincerity. So, we do have this in us, but again, we don't go around even often admitting this to ourselves or to others. Okay. Second question. One way, a typical way you don't trust yourself. And this may relate to how you're not trustworthy in general, but how don't you trust yourself? Do you not trust your intuition? Um, do you not trust, choices? Do you not trust the vibe you're picking up from other people? What was one way that you don't trust yourself? Let's go ahead and post these in the chat. I don't do what I say I'm going to do, then I get pissed with myself. I don't believe that I'm going to succeed. I don't trust myself to deliver on my work. Well, back to micro lies again. I don't trust my own judgment. I often defer to other people's opinions. I don't trust I can handle it. Um, I don't trust in getting my stuff done. I rely on a committee of mediocrity instead of trusting myself. I don't trust myself to make decisions, even on stupid stuff. I don't trust when my gut tells me it's the other way. I don't trust myself to responsibly manage my money. I don't trust myself I'll handle a new hard task. I call my lies micro lies. I love you guys. I don't trust that I'll be okay. I don't trust that I'm enough. Okay, beautiful. See, this is just when we bring stuff up where we can look at it, it gets real, and now we can process it. We can work with it. It's not down in the shadows driving the bus and creating agendas and creating attachments. This owning this stuff makes us more real and more trustworthy. We can trust ourselves and be trustworthy. And I believe it's the foundation of how we can also understand people better and what we can trust and not trust about them. All right, let's do another question. We're going to do four and all. Third question. One way, a general way, I am distrusting of others. In general, what's a way I am distrusting of others? I do not trust others to deliver what they promise. I assume negative intent even from those closest to me. And as we're sharing these, I think you're going to start seeing how these can really mess with our lives, mess with our relationships, and even attract into our life what we don't want. I'm entrusting of others when they want to help me. I don't trust people when they express good intention. That women are not trustworthy. I doubt none of the rest of us have that. I don't trust others to see and appreciate me. I don't trust people enough to lend them money. I will check and double check to verify what they said is true. I don't keep my promises. I expect other people are the same. I think others have hidden agenda. I'm distrusting of others. They're going to be traitors. They're going to betray me. I distrust relationships without any reason. I don't trust others doing what they say they will or how good they will do it. I hear that one a lot when guys say won't delegate, and this is me. I don't delegate because I don't trust other people will do it the way I want it done, or I don't trust they will do it as good as I would do it. When I confronted that trust issue in myself and actually started delegating and actually started communicating clearly what I wanted and delegating to people who had the skill sets and ability to do it, they actually did it better than me consistently, better than what I could do. So I had to challenge that trust one that I had to. I assume people want to use me. Um, especially if they say something positive about me. I expect people to attack me. Um, I think if I'm not the alpha, I can't trust women in my life. Get off the red pill stuff. I don't trust others to make their own minds up about me. Um, I just trust male friends. I just trust life itself. I don't trust that people mean what they tell me. Yeah, this is the stuff that's operating 24/7 all the time down in our unconscious, whether we're aware of it or not, whether, now, as we look at our unconscious, we're speaking it out loud. This stuff's running all the time. Okay, last question, number four. One sentence, one way that you trust too much. What is one way that you trust too much? And I think we're going to see an irony here that if we've got this list of maybe 25 posts here of how we're untrustworthy, how we don't trust. The other side of the coin is as we don't trust, we also trust too much. And we trust the wrong people and we trust the wrong situations and we trust things we know aren't true. So ways you trust too much, um, or still on the not trusting. Um, I trust that others will take care of my livelihood. Um, and I don't trust other drivers. We're still on the I don't trust. Maybe we're not going to get too many of the I trust too much answers. I assume those in charge will take care of me the way they say they will. I trust women to be reasonable. Um, I trust the negative voices in my head that tell me I won't be able to handle it. I trust other people to have positive intentions. I act as if I'm going to live and be healthy for many years and that people will magically change. Yeah. I trust others have my best intention. I trust too much in people will treat me the same way I treat them. I trust that others will not cross my boundaries and never harm me too much. Um, Not testing people enough for important stuff. I trust people to care about me. I trust others to be sincere. Others will give as good as I give. Um, I trust too much when a person is pleasant or nice. Yeah, can't trust nice people. I remember seeing, hearing a study of something. You know what? We're more trusting of attractive people. Did you know that? The more attractive a person is, the more we're likely to trust them. And I think attractive people probably learn that at an early age and take full advantage of that. Okay, so let's hit on the third part of this, and then we'll come back and I want to open it up for questions in just a minute. Third thing I've observed about trust is how we trust is fundamentally dysfunctional. Can you see if it is all this unconscious and maybe this blanket one way or another, so black and white, it is going to be fundamentally dysfunctional if it is so disconnected from the actual what's happening in the moment, from our intuition, from our senses about it. Um, so it's going to be fundamentally dysfunctional and typically invites the very thing we most fear. Now this is the crazy part, but this is true. You know, uh, you guys know me. I'm not a big fan of what's called the law of attraction. I don't think if we just think about something enough, molecules will rearrange themselves to manifest in front of us. But I do believe the world will always be as we believe the world to be. Because that's because the mind is a predictive machine, so it always predicts what it believes to be true, what it's experienced in the past, and the mind seeks consistency. The mind doesn't like inconsistent, contradictory things. It wants everything to line up with what it senses. That's where confirmation bias plays such a big role. So our trust issues impact situations of every moment of every day. Take these lists of these from these four questions and just think if even just those, what we posted there, just four simple things, if those four things are unconsciously running the machine of our life day in and day out, 24/7 from that unconscious place, they're going to have a big impact on our life, on the choices we make, the people we get involved with, how much we trust people, the risks we're willing to take, what we'll say yes to, what we say no to. And we are going to invite into our life what feels familiar to us. And so those things you posted in the chat are your occurring world. They're what feel familiar to you. And therefore, your mind will either invite into your world people or situations that match those, and or will, you know, kind of influence people and situations to line them up to be consistent with what you believe to be true, even if what you believe to be true means you're inviting crap into your life that you don't want. Now, one way I've seen this happen for years in working with guys, if a guy comes to me, and whether it's in a group or a class or coaching or whatever, and basically says, I don't trust women, I'm afraid I'm going to get cheated on. I usually ask them, have you been cheated on? And it's funny, I usually get one of two answers. One is, no, but I'm afraid of it. I go, well, you've got issues of abandonment in there somewhere, whether a woman's cheated on you or not. If you're afraid of being cheated on, you've been cheated on, right? You've been abandoned. Or the second answer is, yeah, every girlfriend I've ever had. Now, I mean, not just a few. Every girlfriend I've had has cheated on me. And if they're with a girlfriend now, they're probably suspicious she is or she's going to. And I tell these guys, I tell them, here's my experience as a therapist and coach. Every guy who has a fear of being cheated on by a woman is going to get cheated on. There is something about how that fear manifests in the women we pick. We either invite people into our life that match our paradigm, or we interact with them in such a way that it drives them to behave in the way that we fear. Every guy I've ever known gets cheated on. Either he picks women that can't be trusted, and then maybe he even knows and ignores all the signs of their lack of trustworthiness, and or his guarding of himself, his holding back, his suspicion, his insecurity, his jealousy, his accusations drive her away to somebody that actually treats her better and that she actually enjoys being with. So it almost always happens. Whatever, however, our trust issues, however they are down there in our unconscious, remember what what Jung said, it's going to run our life. And we're going to just call it fate. Women can't be trusted. They all cheat. Why? Because we expect to be cheated on by women, and we make sure that expectation gets fulfilled. Right. Another common one, and maybe as a nice guy, maybe you've heard this one. You get to know a woman, she starts opening up to you, she really kind of, opens and lets down, and then she says something to you like, "You're the only person I trust. You're the only person I can trust." Run. Run away. Because she's got big trust issues, and there's probably a reason she picked you because she's got trust issues. And remember, we all have our own way of being untrustworthy. We'll probably live up to her expectations, and we'll soon be on her shit list of people who she no longer trusts either because nobody is trustworthy. So we will project these things. We've had these painful experiences of betrayal or abandonment or deceit. And of course, they've hurt us. And especially if they've come from people close to us. And we're going to expect that others are going to be the same. And especially, as I've said, if we keep seeming to attract the same kind of people or co-creating the same kind of systems with them that lead to the same outcomes, that's going to keep intensifying this belief of what I'll call our occurring world. And so I, I think therapy can play an important role in this. When I split with my second wife, I immediately joined some 12-step groups. I started going to 12-step groups. Mainly, I went to sex addicts and sex and love addicts. I didn't really, I'm a love addict, not so much a sex addict, but I like the sex addict groups because it was almost always all men. And really they really went deep into stuff. And I had a trauma bonded relationship with my ex that is like, even though she treated me badly for 14 plus years, I had a hard time letting go of her, a hard time moving on. And I even told myself it's probably gonna take me at least 2 years before I quit thinking about her daily for good or for bad. And I just gave myself the time. and I worked on it. I did go to meetings. I processed. I got coaching, therapy, and I promise you, whatever our adult abandonments are, they are probably stand-ins for childhood abandonments. They're probably a recreation of what happened to us as children. It feels familiar. So in many ways, our adult experiences are just a portal that we can look into, walk through to go back and deal with past stuff. Because we all got abandoned by our caregivers. We all got not treated 100% well. We all got lied to and deceived by our parents. We all did. And so that feels normal. It becomes our occurring world. And we will, as I've said, go out and recreate our occurring world. So just like I say, in quoting Dr. David Snarch, that conscious relationships are powerful personal growth machines. Whatever is happening in now, in our present life, especially when we see repetitive patterns that we keep repeating. So we know maybe we're the common denominator. Maybe after a while, we can't blame all women. All women are this way. That's why I keep having the same problem with women. Maybe we have to take some ownership there. That's the beginning of opening a portal to go back and see what about this repeating story is old for me, and how can I begin getting aware of that and clearing it out? Again, it's making the unconscious conscious. So just a quick example of a practice that the my coach does every year in the program is we do something called occurring world, where we have to boil down what is our deep belief about ourself and the world. And then we work on how can we start shifting that deep belief. And my current world belief was I have to put up with shit to get love. Now, that's an old story for me. That's a dad story, that's a mom story. And it's gotten repeated in every adult relationship, friendships, girlfriends, wives. And because it's how I believe the world works, I keep co-creating that and signing on for it. And about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I started shifting and I created a new occurring world. And that is love rains down on me, or I'm swimming in a sea of love. And, after kind of, consciously working at shifting just that phrase about my occurring world, I kind of started noticing that my world was shifting. I wasn't putting up with shit. I wasn't even getting shit I had to put up with. And everywhere I went, I just felt loved and well nourished and well nurtured and well cared for. And I just became much more conscious of that world. And then that world began to be true for me. So again, the treat your present day trust issues, or how they manifest as a portal to go back and do your old work. And as we undo and work through the old stuff, then present day stuff can start shifting because our unconscious is inviting, requesting, and looking for something different in the world.